Now in the Chosen Season 5 behind the scenes, we've seen a lot of really interesting things that are going to come up, and I promise you soon I will do a video all about what we should expect to see in the Chosen Season 5, because there's so much that they're going to have to pack into the season. I already have a list of like 20 or 25 things that I know that we're going to see, or that I'm guessing pretty highly that we're going to see. However, in this section right here, we get confirmation of one of those things for sure, something that we knew for sure was going to happen in this season, but we were really not expecting to see much of it, and we've already got a little bit of a glimpse. So let's talk about the Last Supper. Let's talk about what we've seen here in these sections here, and yeah, just break it down a little bit. What is the Last Supper? Why is it important? And dive into that, because obviously it's going to be a big part of this season. Here we go.
Yeah. Right, thank you. Let's get last one. All right.
So this building that we're seeing in front of us is definitely something that we see reoccurring in a lot of these shots that we're going to see moving forward. We see a lot of the apostles here, first off. They are kind of close to this building over here in the shots moving forward. We also see the torch that we're going to see in just another shot in just a second here, right next to the doors over there. And so this building is obviously important somehow. And so I think it's probably connected to what we're going to see here. But let's keep on going and watch.
So background, you see how this is going to be.
So you see the actors there and the door there. You see a flight of stairs there leading up as well.
Background, reset.
So I'm going to kind of stop the flow.
We'll go from over here.
Reset. We'll reset first.
All right. I thought this was funny, so I added it in. Fans on set were like taking pictures of different things. They got a candid picture of Chris Durbin, and then there's another one of Jelaine that I won't show for her respect. She looked a little bit hilarious in it, so... Then we get another section here with the crew BTS, cast and crew BTS, waiting for that sun to go down. And of course, Dallas and Akis, who are, Dallas is the director, Akis is the cinematographer. They're kind of talking about what they want to do for this shot, setting up what they want to do as the camera kind of pans here. Focusing on the stairs there as they go up. You can see the light is on top of the stairs there as well. So possibly they could be shooting down the stairs, or they just want to see how the lighting looks, or maybe they're adding some fill or some sort of hair light or something like that from over there. A hair light is something that comes from the top and kind of shines on your hair to separate you. Not sure, but obviously this is an important section. There's a lot of people that are posting about this section here. And here we see some more people on the crew, as well as some of the stand-ins and actors back here. All right, so here we see another section of those same stairs. We see a little bit of a scrim here to block out some of the light, but we also see, of course, the torch, and then it looks like the light on top is doing some sort of moonlight because it's a little bit bluer there as the torch is red. And so, yeah, definitely a night scene. Obviously, they shot a couple of overnights this week, so that's why the week was a little bit shorter, and then they're going to go into next week back to days, I believe, but we'll see. And then, so here we see another section of that same building here. I'm using all of this footage to say this building is probably important, right? So there's that there. Here's just a quick photo of the easiest game of silhouettes. If you guys can guess who they are, then you know the chosen crew pretty well. I'd say this is a level 1 silhouette game for sure.
All right, Al.
All right, now this is the pièce de résistance, right? This is the clip for sure that piqued my interest the most this week. Day 55, we see as Dallas is getting ready for what looks like the Last Supper. Now, there's a few things that are quite interesting in here, and of course, we're going to dive into some scripture as well, but let's look at this.
Get over to those flames. They're kind of crazy right now. They're crazy.
Very, very cool section. I'll bring that back one more time. We'll look at it again. So we see this section here with all the arches and the pillars throughout the entire room. We see a table in the middle with small stools. We'll talk about that as well. And then we also see someone over here to the right. I do not believe this is a character. I do not believe this is someone who is actually going to be in this spot. I think this is someone who is a stand-in. I could be wrong about that. It could be a new character. It does not really look like anybody that we know from the show. It doesn't look like they have a big beard or anything. Their skin tone is a little bit too light for most of our apostles. I don't recognize them as someone that we've seen, including their outfit or what they look like. Of course, I've been wrong before. But let me know your thoughts of who you think that is. I'll make it bigger for you guys so you can see it a little bit better. but I honestly do not think this is anybody we know. I think it's probably a stand-in, is my guess. So let me know your thoughts. We see Alan in the background, who is the set dresser, the set designer. I guess the set dresser is the proper term, right? I don't know. He's the guy that makes sure everything is in the right place, measured properly, and taken care of. He does an amazing job, as I've said several times previously. And so that is that. So we see that there. Really, really interesting stuff. So let's talk about a few things as we look at this scene overall. First of all, looks really amazing. Let's talk about the room in general. We see the room is filled with arches and these pillars. We see a lot of stone accents on the walls as well as a wooden floor. I'm not so sure that a wooden floor would even be remotely close to what we would have in here. Although the rest of the room seems very, very similar to a room that they believe is actually the upper room in Jerusalem. Now, I don't know if I actually believe that this is the upper room. There's a few different rooms in Jerusalem, or buildings in Jerusalem, or archaeological sites in Jerusalem that have been claimed to be the upper room. And so we're not 100% sure where it is, or where it took place. But this right here is the... Hey, really quick, if you enjoy our channel and you want to see more videos just like this, the best way to help support us beyond just watching these videos, thank you by the way, is by going to snipesupport.com. This is a place where you can offer $5, $10, or $25 a month, and it really helps us to have a more stable environment here on YouTube. It can be really hard sometimes, months being up and down, revenue being all over the place, because advertisers are really fickle. And what happens if a political advertiser decides to be on our channel, or if someone who doesn't like Christianity doesn't want to be on our channel because of what we talk about? There's a lot of different things that I can't control with that. And so Patreon really helps us to have a stable environment. Thank you to all of our people that are on Patreon now. And if you do want to join, there's a link down in the description down below, or you can just go to snipesupport.com. Anyway, let's get back to the video. But this right here is the room that they believe that it took place. So I think The Chosen is definitely taking inspiration from this room right here, which is called the Cenacle or the Cenicle. I don't know how you say that, but and so you can see the resemblance, right? If we look at this room to the left, you can see the arches and the pillars that kind of come through the floor. And then this one, you see the same kind of design there with the stones on the walls behind, near the pillars over there, right? So like over here, we have some brickwork kind of on the ground and stuff. Same thing on this. We see some brickwork over on the back and what's going on there, right? So it looks pretty similar to what we're seeing there. Although I'm not sure if they, kind of designed it like that or not on purpose. So we'll have to see as it comes to it. I do think it looks pretty similar though. I would say this is either a great red herring by Dallas or this is them preparing the Last Supper, which we know is coming for season 5. Now, one thing that I'll say about this scene in particular is the table obviously would not have been like this. I think the closest thing to what we would have seen in The Chosen is what we saw actually in season 4 with the Romans. So the Romans have this kind of what's called a triclinium, which is like a U-shaped, just like this, except for there's no stools. You are actually like sitting on pillows and stuff, right? You're relaxing. This is normally how you would have eaten during the time of Jesus. They didn't have tables and chairs that you sat at like this. It wasn't a common thing to like set the dining room table, right? And and have it be like this. Of course, you'd have cups, you would have, plates and things like that, but you wouldn't have like chairs and tables, and it wouldn't look exactly like this. You'd be on the floor essentially with pillows and blankets and other things, right? To kind of lean on and relax. For example, that's why it says in the scriptures that Jesus relaxed at the table, right? This is one of those moments there. And so we see this in scripture. We see now on the first day of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus saying, "Where will you have us prepare for you to eat the Passover?" He said, "Go into the city to a certain man and say to him, the teacher says, my time is at hand. I will keep the Passover at your house with my disciples." And the disciples did as Jesus had directed them, and they prepared the Passover. Now, before we talked about this scripture as well, where Jesus actually asks Peter and James and John, he says, "Go and find the guy with the water," and he has a jug of water, and we don't know who this guy is, okay? All we know is that Jesus has asked the disciples basically to prepare for Passover, and it's going to be at this guy's house. Well, who is this guy? We don't really know. There's a few things that kind of hint at different things in the scriptures, but we cannot make a concrete answer to this without basically just claiming that one answer is correct, which I don't believe is the right thing to do. So who is this guy? Number one, he is a random nobody, right? That is number one. We don't really know who he is. There's nothing that can tell us who he is, right? So that's guess number one. Guess number two is that he's someone that we know but was not named in scripture, maybe for their protection, maybe for something else, right? So they believe that this could be Nicodemus, for example, or this could be Joseph of Arimathea's home, for example, someone who was close to Jesus but did not want to be known as a follower of Jesus. So they allowed them to use this space that they have in order for them to have this Passover dinner, something like that, right? Another one that is really interesting that a lot of people have pointed out on our content over the last few weeks is John Mark and his family. Okay, so John Mark during this time is most likely a young boy, or at least a young man, and so we don't really know how old he was or where he was during the time of Jesus, right? But one of the things that we see here is that possibly this could be John Mark, who wrote the Gospel of Mark. It could be his family's home who allows Jesus to use this for their place of Passover, okay? And so those are kind of our main guesses that we have for whose home this actually is. But we could never really know, so it's really hard to see or to guess. It's really hard to guess who the chosen would have chosen, who the chosen would have picked to be in this role, okay? A lot of you seem to be leaning towards Mark, but I don't really know. I don't have a horse in the race right now of who I think that it is. So quite interesting for sure there as well. So if we continue reading actually, and we jump into this, when it was evening, he reclined at table with the 12, and they were eating. He said, "Truly, I say to you, one of you will betray me." So all of this, of course, will happen in this room here. And again, this is a important line here. When it was evening, he reclined at table with the 12. This shows us that they weren't like, he wasn't reclining at the table like I am at my desk, right? Like he's not like reclining at my table, right? No, he's actually like eating his food. He's like full, right? And they're just like picking at the food as they go along. This isn't something where you like go in and you gorge yourself. You're sitting here with your family or the people you're doing Passover with, probably for hours and hours and hours, eating this food and just talking and having fun and reminiscing over the Jewish people in general, right? Reminiscing over Passover and the Exodus and everything that happened there. That is part of this whole experience, right? It's a party that you have at your house where all of you are getting together as a family and remembering what God has done, right? And so this is over a long period of time here. Yeah, really, really interesting stuff. Another parallel we have is Luke 22. This is when Jesus initiates the Lord's Supper. Up here is where we see another section where we talked about before, where Jesus says to Peter and John, he says, "Go and prepare the Passover for us that we may eat it." They said to him, where will you have us prepare it? And he said to them, "Behold, when you have entered the city, a man carrying a jar of water will meet you. Follow him to the house that he enters and tell the master of the house, the teacher says to you, where is the guest room where I may eat the Passover with my disciples? And he will show you a large upper room furnished, prepare it there." So this is obviously that large upper room furnished, right? It's got table and chairs and cups and plates and everything's ready to go, right? So I do wonder how the Chosen is going to do this, but it's interesting that Dallas gave us a little bit of a sneak peek kind of pretty early on. So they actually only have about 14 days more of filming, which is pretty crazy to think about. 14 days more. It's not very much, but really, really cool stuff here.
They're crazy.
Now this is day 55. I think this is another overnight. They have some food trucks on site for people to get some food and stuff like that. And then here's another section here of, I think, some earlier stuff. I don't remember exactly when this was filmed, but here is some of the apostles walking through the crowd here. We're going to talk more about this in a different section as well. See the apostles there walking through the crowd. Of course, Peter and John and Thaddeus there. Now, this is what we're going to talk about in another section, so I'll actually hold off and kind of show you this in a bit. But yeah, let me know what you think. Last Supper is coming. There's a lot of things that are coming that are going to make this harder and harder and harder. Yeah, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy to think through everything that's coming scripturally. I mean, there's not a lot of time, and there's so much to tell, which I mean makes a lot of sense, right? When you're talking about a full season of the show plus a feature-length film for the next season as well, like that's going to be crazy to see. So season 5 within itself is going to be a lot of setup, but I think there's going to be a lot of payoff as well as we really get into the nitty-gritty of the scripture of what is going to be happening here, who Jesus is, and how the people react to that. We're going to see all of that in this next season. So yeah, crazy stuff. Get prepared.